Hey guys, welcome to our channel. My name is Ed Joran from Deliverance Church Ungatrungai, and I will be your guide today as we discuss this very interesting topic, what do you really want? So feel free to share this content with your friends and with your family, and I'm sure it will be of blessing to them just as much as it will be a blessing of you. Because here at Deliverance Church, we are geared towards the edification and the growth of young minds from all over. So if you can share this as much as possible to as many people as possible, we'll deeply appreciate it. So be blessed and have a nice time. So today I'd like to share with you two principles that I think cut across every aspect of our lives as human beings. And these principles will help us and guide us towards the discussion as we look towards this question, what do you really want? As a person, what do I really want? It's a question that I also need to ask myself, even as I'm sharing this with you. So the first application is an application that I've shared, I believe, several times before. And it's an application that says, direction determines destination. You can say that with me again if you're watching or if you're listening, wherever you are. Direction determines destination. More importantly, your direction determines your destination. And it's a principle that we know when we think about the concept of our lives in various aspects, whether we're going to work, whether we're going to school, whether we're cooking, whether we're building something. It's something we know, nikitu tunajua instinctively. We know that the steps that I take towards this direction will ultimately determine how I'll get there. But when it comes to our personal lives, making decisions that are important, like financial decisions in terms of things that we buy, when it comes to our relationships, we somehow subconsciously forget this concept, and we actually think that we can jump our way through life by the intent or how we feel about things. And that's totally not true. Hence why we're asking the question, what do you really want? In your life, financially, academically, morally, as a person in your relationships, as your goals for 50 years to come from now, 25 years to come from now, even 1 year to come from now, what do you really want? And so the second concept and the second principle goes in line to support our question. And the principle is good questions lead to good decisions. So that's what the concept says. Good questions lead to good decisions. And someone would ask me, Joram, how did you come up with this? First of all, I didn't come up with this. None of this is original with me. I learned it just as I'm hoping that you're going to learn. So I learned it and I just felt that I needed to share this with you. Good questions directly correlates to good decisions. And think about any time in your life when you've been given advice growing up, either by your parents, by your teachers, by a friend, by a colleague. They were giving you advice in terms of how to live your life or something that you needed to do. And you were like, I get it, but there's just something that's in us that when we're listening to advice, we always feel like the fact that we're being given advice makes it seem like we are not mature enough or we're not competent enough to be able to think and decide what is good for ourselves in our lives. So it feels like we are allowing someone else to come into our space and actually tell us what we need to do. And that makes us feel little. And it also obviously explains why when we get advice, we are so quick to shun it because we don't want to be made to feel little. And it explains why we take our own advice majority of the time. Like, we listen to what other people say and you're like, okay, I hear you. Yes, what you're saying makes sense, but ultimately, mi nitafanya kinataka. I can just give an example of myself. In the past 1 year, there's a time that I was having a conversation with my mom and I wanted to leave the house and go somewhere. And she was like, where are you going? I'm like, you don't need to know that I'm going. See me natoka tu, I'm going to do my own stuff, so it's okay. I'll come back when I'll come back. And my mom was like, ni sawa tu, why you just go without telling me? But najua tu, utarudi jioni na utaniambia penye ulikuwa. I was like, nah, I won't tell you anything. So me, I went. So interestingly, when I went where I had to go, when I got there, then I realized that I needed some more money than the money that I had. And so who did I call? My mom. Hey mom, please send me some more money. I need to do this. And she was like, where are you? Before I send you money, where are you? And I had to tell her. And so like I just laughed at myself because genuinely I had failed myself. Like I had betrayed my own instinct by saying what she had foreseen that I was going to tell her what I was going to do before I had actually did it. So the essence of me giving you this story is because majority of the times in our life, we like to think that we know better. We like to think that we're able to make the best decisions for our life. If you are left to make all the decisions that will lead you to a good place, we like to think that we can make the best decisions. But ukweli ni kwamba our decisions are more or less filtered through how we feel, our emotions, our perceptions of life, which are sometimes skewed, and the experiences we get. So it's not all the time that we'll make good decisions. So for us to be able to make good decisions that are going to spark the direction and the destination that we're going to get to, then it is imperative that we ask critical questions that are going to help us gain some perspective on where we want to be in terms of our personal lives. Hence why we say good questions lead to good decisions. So this is going to correlate to the question that we're discussing today, which is, what do you really want? In your life as a person, what do you really want? It's an interesting question because when I say it, there are things that do not instinctively come to your mind when I ask the question, what do you really want? You'd probably think in terms of probably things you want to buy, things you want to achieve, things you want relationally. But there are things and there's some assumptions, some small subsets that we have subconsciously in our mind that are the periphery of our thinking in terms of this question. Because something that is very true, but that you don't instinctively think about when I ask the question, what do you really want, is you want what you want right now. You always want to have your way. That is very true. We all want to have our way. It's something that's true, but when I ask the question, it's not, you're not going to be like, what do you really want? Well, I want to always have my way. Obviously, you're not going to accept that. You're not going to consciously admit to that. But deep down, we know that we all want to have our way. And the second thing is, we want to do what we want to do. Like you won't always want to do what you want to do, but you don't want to be made to do things that other people are telling you to do, things that you're required to do. So you only want to do the things that you want to do based on your thinking, based on things that you've already decided to do in your own perspective. And it's very true of each and every single one of us. If you were given food, money, and a place to live for the rest of our lives, and told to only do things that we want to do, every one of us would probably be content with that. You'd be like, okay, thank God, I never have to work again, I never have to do anything that anybody is telling me again, because you'd have probably just the basic needs for you to just stay and just watch Netflix and do what you want to do for the rest of your time. So these are two things that lie at the subconscious of our mind that we very well know are true, but we don't think about them instinctively. And the reason these things we don't think about them instinctively is because we know that to some extent they are wrong. And to some extent, they have a wrong perspective that they encompass in our lives. Because the one thing that we know, and the one thing that is very clear for us, if you always get what you want, you will not end up where you want to be. And that's true. I'll just give a simple example. Imagine you're asleep, umelala, you're resting through the night, and it's morning, and it's time for you to wake up, either go to work, go to school, or wherever you want to go. So instinctively, we all want to be like, 15 more minutes. It feels so warm, so comfortable, so you want to remain there. And that's what you want right now. And in that moment, that's what you want, and that's what you feel like is the best thing, the best place that you could actually possibly be. But we also know, on the other hand, that it is essential for you to wake up and go to work or go to school or go and do the things that needs to be done, because ultimately, by doing what you need to do, then you're going to have the success that you need to have in that area of your life. So on one hand, you need to do what you need to do, so you need to get out of bed to go and do it so that you may be successful in that area. But on the other hand, you want to stay and rest a bit more. And of course, after all, nani hataki kupumzika, nani hataki kulala 15 more minutes. So you want both of the things, and I believe all of us have ever experienced this dilemma. So you want both of the things, but you can't have both. One has to take precedence over the other. So if you always get what you want, then you'll not end up where you want to be. So if, let's say, you always get to sleep and get to rest in every single day of your life, obviously not do what needs to be done, and you'll not achieve the success that you need to achieve. So you'll not get to where you want to be. It's that simple. So on the context of this question and the context of how our lives as young people are bookended from beginning to the end, from where we are young and we have so many goals, so many dreams, so many aspirations, well, there are things that we want that are momentary, things that we want in the right now. Just as I've used the example of rest and sleeping, kuna vitu that you feel like, I want to have this now, and things that we feel like we want to have ultimately. And the one thing that is very clear and very obvious, even though we don't really think about it unless someone surfaces it for us, is that the things that we immediately want, more often than not, actually undermine the things that we ultimately want. Just go following my example for what I've given you. So I know you're going to laugh at me by giving this example, but there's some time I was on attachment at some company somewhere in Nairobi. So one day I needed to wake up to go to work. So I was asleep, and then I slept late overnight watching a movie or something. So it's morning time. I'm like, do I really need to go? I'm like, I think this whole week I've gone every single day and I've been on time. So I think today I can afford to sleep and actually text my supervisor and tell them that I'll not be able to come today. Besides, after all, I'm on attachment. It's not like I'm being paid to go and work, so I can sleep in. So I decided to sleep in. And I'm like, okay. So I woke up. And interesting enough, even in me deciding to sleep in, I woke up to text my supervisor. So like, what? So I woke up, I texted the supervisor and was like, sorry, I'm not going to be able to make it today, but I'll be there tomorrow. They're like, okay, all the best if you're not feeling good. I was like, thank you. And so it passed. And so I slept in through the day. In fact, I woke up later in the day and I went and I met with my friends and I had an awesome time. And I felt like, wow, hey, I made the right decision. So in the evening, I found out that the guys that we were working with had gotten an opportunity to do something they were going to get some extra payment for. And when I learned about the amount of money they were getting, I was like, oh my God, what did I do? And it's something so simple, like I just slept and decided to go to work, and an opportunity passed by me like that. So in general context, there are things that we momentarily want that will ultimately, most probably, undermine things that we long-term want. So I probably give a list of like 5 things that we want momentarily that we all know. Like, you can think of a whole broad spectrum of things that you want right now, and you can find a way to intertwine it with one of these things that I'm going to say. So my list has things such as fun. Who doesn't want to have fun? We all want to have fun. Nobody wants to have a boring time doing something, whether it's working, whether it's at school, whether it's in any social setting. We all want to have fun. Nobody wants to have a boring time. We all want to have enjoyment. We all want to feel like we're enjoying what we're doing. We're doing it and we're feeling like, okay, I'm enjoying this, I want to keep enjoying this. We all want to have pleasure. And I know most of the times when I say pleasure, the thing that comes to mind instinctively is sexual pleasure. And it's not just sexual pleasure. I believe there are a variety of things that give people pleasure based on things that you spend your time doing. The people even just listening or making music just gives them pleasure. So different capacities of pleasure are things that you want. You just want to experience that pleasure time and time again. We also have fulfillment. Everybody wants to feel like fulfilled. There's nothing I'm doing that will go to waste. But obviously we know that not everything you do 100% in a day will always have fruitful outcome. But we always want to feel like hakuna moment hata moja in a day inaenda to waste. And the last one on my list is ease. Like, we all want to feel like we're having an easy time. Nobody wants to be like, like you're working, yes, and the work you're doing is hard and it's so tiring. But if you had the choice to just stay at home, Noko provided for your food and your place to stay, most of us, if not all of us, would probably be like, okay, I'm not going to do that work anymore, unless it's work that you actually really love doing. But if it's just work that you do, or anything that you're doing just to make ends meet, then you're probably not going to do it, because nobody wants to have a hard time. Well, if you do, I don't want to have a hard time. I want to have an easy time. If it was up to me to just sit in the house and watch Netflix all day, me I would do that. So we all want to have ease. So we want to have fun, we want to have enjoyment, we want to have pleasure, we want to have fulfillment, and we want to have an easy time. So these are things that we momentarily want. And not to say that these are things that are wrong. No. I don't mean that they're things that are wrong, that we shouldn't have them. Obviously, they're things that are good and nice to have. And it's essential in one aspect and at a point in time in our lives that we have these things. But if you look at them in the broad spectrum of your entire life, these are things that you want momentarily. Things that when you get a conflict in your mind and your conflict in your life, that between doing this thing or doing another thing, your natural instinct is probably going to lead you towards doing this, while it's not probably the best end result for your life. So the things that we want ultimately, the things that you can have, as I said before, you can have a wide range of things that you want for your life as an individual, because we all have different goals and aspirations. But sir, you can fit these things that I'm going to say within the context of those things that you want to achieve for yourself as a person. So the first one we have is satisfaction. Satisfaction is the feeling of being in a good place, of being in a good position, of being able to look back and being like, okay, I did well there. Of being able to look at the place you are at right now and be like, okay, I'm glad I'm here. Of being able to look forward to your future and being like, okay, the future looks bright because of what I have done in the past that is leading me towards where I'm going. So that's the feeling of satisfaction. And we also want to have peace. Everyone want to have a peaceful time. You want to be like, okay, I'm with my friends, I'm with my family, everything is okay. We are at ease with one another. We are at peace with one another. Nothing is the matter. My relationships are healthy. My relationships are flourishing. So everything is good. We all want to have joy. Nobody wants to walk around like a sad down face. We all want to have a good time. We all want to enjoy ourselves. So we all want to have that feeling that you can just sit down and be happy with and content with where you are at in life at that moment in time. We all want to have success. I cannot stress this enough in terms of how much success we all want to have for our lives in different categories. In your relationships, financially, academically, spiritually, we all want to have success. And it's essential, and it's what drives us, I believe, as human beings, each and every single day to wake up and to work towards achieving that success that you really want to have for yourself in your life, and more so for your children and for your family. And the final thing on my list that we definitely want to have that is essential for us as human beings is love. We all want to feel loved by our friends and by our family, and we all want to experience and share the feeling of love with other people. And it's essential that we get to share this feeling and get to transcend this to other people. And it's something that we deeply want and something that we ultimately want. And it's really weird how more often than not, especially as human beings, we undermine our capacities to love. Think about young children undermining their capacity to be able to love by doing things that probably would make their parents unhappy, or think about spouses doing things that probably would not make their partner happy or would put their trust of their partner in question. So more often than not, we find ourselves in positions whereby we do things in the moment that will ultimately undermine things that we want ultimately. Just going by my previous example before, the easiest thing is your example, you're asleep and going to work. In my list for things that we want momentarily, there was ease. So we all want to have an easy time. But on my list of things that we ultimately want, there is success. And we know that success doesn't come easy. You really have to grind your way towards succeeding. So it's essential for us to work towards success and know in moments whereby we need to ease off a little bit and relax, but also knowing that there are positions whereby when we have to do something and we have the option or we have the need or the feel like I want to have an easy time, to be able to be smart enough and wise enough to realize, okay, I want to choose this, I want to go this route, because this route is the one which will ultimately get me where I really want to be. So again, what do you really want? So that's the question that we're asking today. So for me to come across this, I was reading a book about like a few years back. So the book was introduced to me by one of my favorite pastors, and the book is known, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Steve R. Covey. It's a very, very, very powerful book read by so many people around the world, and it's a book that has the potential to really impact each and every single person's lives in terms of setting you up in terms of the direction that you want to take for your life. So as I was reading the book and getting the concept and the picture that my preacher was preaching, he was sharing this, I came across this excerpt in the chapter I'd like to call the eulogy chapter. And when I read this, I was like, okay, I have to share this with my friends. I have to share this with people I know, because you really have to read this and get it into your mind. And it paints a whole different picture that has the potential to change the perspective that you have and steer you on towards a greater destiny. So I want to share the excerpt with you, and I want you to just follow with me and just get what I'm saying and get the whole picture and try to put yourself in the shoes of what the writer is saying. So he goes, in your mind's eye, see yourself going to the funeral of a loved one. Picture yourself driving into the funeral parlor or chapel, parking the car and getting out. As you walk inside the building, you notice the flowers, the soft organ music. You see the faces of friends and family you pass along the way. You feel the shared sorrow of losing the joy of having known that radiates from the hearts of the people there. As you walk down to the front of the room and look inside the casket, you suddenly come face to face with yourself. This is your funeral 3 years from now. All these people have come here to honor you, to express feelings of love and appreciation for your life. As you take a seat and wait for the services to begin, you look at the program in your hand. There are to be 4 speakers. The first is from your family, immediate and also extended. Children, brothers, sisters, nephews, nieces, aunts, uncles, cousins, and grandparents who have come from all over the country to attend. The second speaker is one of your friends, someone who can give the sense of what you are as a person. The third speaker is from your work or your profession. And the fourth speaker is someone from your church or some community organization where you've been involved in service. Now, think deeply. I like the way he says that, think deeply. It's like he's spurring you on towards realizing that, okay, the picture has been painted for you. So think about it. Just put yourself in perspective in that. And I know, obviously, it's not easy for someone to imagine that it's your funeral and nobody wants to die. So the least thing from your mind is to be able to imagine you in a position whereby you have passed on and it's now your funeral. But just put yourself in those shoes for a moment and just ride along this journey with me and put yourself in this position. Think deeply, he says. What would you like each of these speakers to say about you and your life? What kind of husband or wife, father or mother would you like their words to reflect? What kind of son or daughter or cousin? What kind of friend? What kind of working associate? What character would you like them to have seen in you? What contribution, what achievement would you like them to remember? Look carefully at the people around you. What difference would you like to have made in their lives? Now, I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have ever been to a funeral of someone you know, if ranging from how many funerals you've been to. And most of the time when there's people are speaking on behalf of the lost loved one, people speak in terms of how the impact that they had in their lives. And me personally, I've never heard it. Perhaps you've heard, probably if you've heard, you need to invite me to a funeral, so pia mi nisikie. But if you've heard someone who at the funeral anza kutaja the number of houses this person has, the number of cars this person has, the number of things that this person has, the number of wives that this person has. Oh wait, probably watu wengine utaja the number of wives that someone has. But you hardly hear people talk about the number of things that someone owned, because that's not what determines you as a person. But when you listen closely, you really get to hear what touches people's hearts, and you realize that it's the impact that someone has made in terms of love and joy and peace that you've transcended to other people through your speech, through your being, in terms of their lives. And that is what the difference that will stay with them for the rest of their lives. So now, put yourself into perspective. What difference have you made in people's life, in your friend's life, in your parents' life right now? What difference can your mom or dad say that you have made in their life? What difference can your closest friends say that you have made in their life? What difference can your church pastor say that you have made in their life? What difference can your sister say that you have made in her life? Think about it. So he goes on and says, before reading further, take a few minutes down to jot your impressions. So I'm pretty sure most of you are probably, if not all of you, like me. When I started reading out books, I used to come to places whereby the writer would say, take a few minutes and think about this and write a few observations down. I used to be like, I'm not going to write anything. See, essence ya mimi kusoma ni kumaliza kitabu, so acha mimi niendelee kusoma the following chapters na nimalize kitabu. But the essence of doing what we're doing and the essence of you taking a moment and really understanding what you need to understand from this excerpt, and it will enable you to change the perspective of what you have. It will spark you towards thinking deeper in terms of what do you want to be defined by as a person. And it will help you lead and guide you towards understanding the question better. What is it that you really, really want? So when you go and read the book and you check a few, just after this excerpt as you move forward, the writer goes on to say that now after you have jotted down your assumptions and your presumptions of what people are going to say about you, that is your definition of success. So everything that you're going to think people need to say about you in terms of your character, in terms of your achievements, in terms of your contributions to their life, that is ultimately the success that you as a person are going to have. That is ultimately the success that I, as Joram, am going to have. So again, what do we really want the people that will come for our funeral to have said about our lives? So in line with this, I want to introduce you to a new question, a different sort of question, a question that prompts your perspective to think broader, that prompts your perspective to think bigger, and prompts your perspective to think in terms of what is the wise way to go about my life. Because I'm not saying that the question, what do you really want, is a bad question. No, it's a good question. It sparks you to think deeper compared to the question simply, what do you want? The question, what do you really want, sparks you to think deeper. But I want to change the game a bit, because when I learned this, it was a game changer for my life. It enabled me to put things into perspective, enabled me to take things on a different sort of level. And so I want to challenge you to do the same thing for you. So to put this into perspective, I want to ask a different question. And the question is going to be, what do you value? So repeat that with me again. What do you value as a person in your life? What do you value? What do you value for you? What do you value in terms of the things that you're ultimately going to hold for success? The things that when you sit down and look at your life, you're going to be like, okay, this is success for me. And when I was writing my list, of course I did the exercise. So one of the things that came out for me clearly was I want to be known as someone who's straightforward, someone who's honest. And it was a bit difficult because nani adanganyangi, like even the basic life, or you're meeting someone and you're a few minutes late and they call you and ask you, where are you? And I'm like, I'm coming, karibu kufika. And you know that you're not coming. You know that you're still back at home, you know that you're preparing yourself to leave, but you still say that you're coming. So when I realized that I wanted to be known as straightforward and honest, I realized that it was something very significant for me. And so it became something that was a mantra for my life, and it guided my decisions moving forward in regards to how I would handle every opportunity to be a straightforward and an honest person. And so for your life as a person, it's something that you need to realize and you need to think about. What do you value? What do you think will drive you towards making the decisions that are gonna enable you to be the best kind of person that you're gonna be? Remember, good questions lead to good decisions. So ask the question, what do you really value? It's a good question, and so it's a question that you need to ask. So as Christians, we believe that the aspect of value was an aspect that has been introduced and brought to our lives by our Heavenly Father. And so we come to this point whereby we realize that the message of Christ in the 4 Gospels was propelled and gets towards realizing and bringing to us this one concept, that God is a God who is so full of love and concern for the well-being of his people. And so that is basically just the whole New Testament explained in terms of what Jesus wanted to enable his apostles, his disciples, and the crowd, and people all over the world to be able to know and to understand about God. God is a God who is so full of love and concern for the well-being of you, for the well-being of the you next to you, for the well-being of your family, for the well-being of your friends. And so there's this perspective and picture that we have, is like God and happiness and God and fun are contradictory. And it's very wrong. I don't know where we get it from, but perhaps an example is when we were growing up. So I'll give an example of myself, ndo msiseme ati I'm picking on you guys. Perhaps it's me peke yangu who went through this. But like when I was in high school, we used to have these occasions on Saturday. So Saturday used to be our cleanup day. So during the day, you're cleaning up. And in the evening, we used to have a session for entertainment for, I think, like 4 or 5 hours, from around 6 to around 10 or 11. So interestingly, we used to have a Christian Union group that used to have fellowships at the same time that the entertainment session was going on. I think their aim was to direct people towards viewing what they value more. And so imagine you being locked up in a school whereby you're not meeting other people, you're doing the same thing over and over again for 3 months, and you only have one opportunity a week, which is on a Saturday, to relax your mind and to open up and to release. So the opportunity to go for entertainment it would seem like a good idea to so many people, and I wouldn't blame anybody who would see it as a good idea. So it would seem as a good idea for so many people to go for entertainment. And so it was. And it was a dilemma for me, because you understand, you love God, so you want to go for CU, but you also want to relax your mind, so you want to go for entertainment. And it was a dilemma that most of us have faced. But now, having moved on from that stage of my life and having grown up, and I'm sure that if I was to sit with you and ask you the things that added value to your life, I'm sure that you probably wouldn't even remember one of the times that you're in entertainment and you slept through the whole session, or one of the times that you're in entertainment and you woke up and went to sleep and you're a changed person. Because yes, it was entertaining, but there was no value that you've gained that 5 years from your life you can say, okay, I can ascribe this to value. And it's understandable. Once in a while, you'd want to go relax, you'd want to go have a good time. But ultimately, when it comes to your life, value is the thing that is of most importance to you. So, once again, what do you value? What do you value? The example is personal. It's probably from a perspective. And of course, I believe that there are also a plethora of things that are probably more complicated and more different category in terms of the choice that you have to make, the decision that you have to make of going one way or the other. And I fully understand that. So it's not that I'm giving my example so that you can do what I did, but it's so that you can take the question and apply it in the context of the situation that you're going through and understand what do you really value. So one of the most famous writers in the Bible, known as the writer Paul, brings us this very interesting point of view in the book of Galatians chapter 5, verse 22. And he says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So when I read this list, I look at the first three, love, joy, peace. Who wouldn't want to be characterized by these things? If you think about the eulogy analogy, who would not want to hear people say that they were full of love, they were full of joy, they were full of peace at your funeral? Who wouldn't want to hear this? Everyone would probably want to hear this. When you think of patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, think of your friends, think of your family, think of people you interact with at work. Wouldn't you want your colleagues to be patient with you? Wouldn't you want your friends to be kind towards you? Wouldn't you want people that you meet in every sphere of life, be it kwa matatu, as you're boarding the bus going to work, be it just when you're walking, wouldn't you want people to be good towards you? You'd not want to collide and have a negative time with people. You'd want to have a good time with people. So if you'd want this for the people that you interact with, you'd want this for the people that you'd love, then it goes without saying that the people that love you would want you to be the same way towards them. They'd want you to be kind towards them. They'd want you to be good towards them. They definitely want you to be patient towards them. So it goes without saying that if these are the things that are important, and God wants these things for you, then God is a God that is so full of love and concern for the well-being of you and the you next to you. That's why he wants these things for you. That's why these things are important for you. So think about your life. Understand that you are created as a person with value. You are created as a person who is able to sit down and think of perspective. You are created as a person who is able to sit down and think of the future that you want for your life. And so it goes without saying that the question, what do you value, is a question that is prompted to spark you into thinking, what is success for you? What is really success for you? And I know that we have different challenges in our families. We are going through different challenges at home. We're going through different challenges at work. You probably have negative atmosphere at work. You're going through different challenges in your business. You're going through different challenges, probably even in your social circles, probably even in your churches. You're going through challenges whereby things are not all rosy at the moment. But it's upon you to sit down and think, what kind of person do I want to be? What kind of life do I want to live? What is success for me? And when you look at this list, look at love, look at joy, look at patience, look at faithfulness, look at gentleness, look at self-control. How much more impact would you have to the people around you, your friends and your family, if you apply these things in your life one day at a time? How much impact would you make in people's lives if you ask this question every time you're making a decision that impacted someone else within your life? How much more success will you have in your own personal life if you apply these questions whenever you're making a decision for your life? I know from the moment that I read this and from the moment that I captured this and I started making decisions fueled by these things at the center of what I want to be, that they have really impacted my life. So as we go through a new year, as we look towards the goals that we want to achieve, as we look towards the dreams and aspirations that we want to carry and we want to get through, then it is imperative that we understand that there is more to us and there is a greater impact that we have to the people around us and even in our lives ourselves. So whenever you're making a decision that is determining the destination of your life, then think of a question that is going to help you steer and change your perspective towards that direction. Remember, from the beginning we said direction determines destination. And your direction is shaped by the choices that you make, the decisions that you make. Each decision is a step towards the direction that you're taking. So if for you to be able to have good decisions, then you need to ask good questions. And a good question is, what do you value? So we started by saying, what do you really want? But now we're ending by saying, what do you value? The God, our Heavenly Father who loves you, has placed in you such a unique possibility to be able to conceptualize the concept of value. So now it is time for you to apply it in your life and ask, what do you value?